It might seem like history is just in the books, but history is all around us. Join us as we travel around Raleigh and see some of the city's history come to life. Today we're going to be looking at the Briggs Building. Today we're going to be answering the questions: how old is the Briggs Building? What makes the historic building special and what you can find inside? Why is the location of the Briggs Building on Fayetteville Street important? Let's find out. Hop on the historic Raleigh trolley with Sammy the Squirrel to explore some of Raleigh's history.
The Briggs Building today is the home of the City of Raleigh Museum on Fayetteville Street. The City of Raleigh Museum has many exhibits and programs on local Raleigh history and a large collection of artifacts from the area. This building started off as a hardware store, but there are many other things to find here throughout its years. Today, we'll be talking a little bit about this history and all the history it's seen.
How old is the Briggs Building?
The Briggs Building has been standing here since 1874. The Briggs family had a hardware store in this spot for many years before, but this building was constructed by Thomas H. Briggs Sr. and his two sons, Thomas and James, to create a larger space for their store and other businesses to be a part of the hustle and bustle in the heart of the city of Raleigh on Fayetteville Street. This notebook, it belonged to James Briggs, one of the sons who helped run Briggs Hardware. James was pretty creative and took an old hardware catalog to use as a scrapbooks for poems he cut out, newspaper clippings, and handwritten notes of special dates in his life.
What makes the historic building special and what you can find inside?
Back in 1874, the Briggs Building would have been the tallest building in Raleigh. At 4 stories, it was Raleigh's first skyscraper and towered above the other buildings for over 30 years. Located across from the busy Old City Market and so close to the Capitol building, it was the perfect location for a growing business. At different times, the building held a grocery store, a tailor, a theater, even a gym on the 4th floor. Have you ever been to the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences or History? Well, in the 1870s, they were known as one museum called the State Museum, which was located on the 3rd floor of this building. Professor Kerr was in charge of a large collection of scientific items that would later be moved down the street and turned into the state museums. One of those items was a large whale skeletons you see in the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences. Can you imagine this building with a whale skeleton inside? This flexible flyer sled was purchased at Briggs Hardware in 1928. The sled was invented in 1889 by Samuel Allen Leeds, a Quaker farm equipment manufacturer. This sled was the first of its kind, with flexible steerability. Leeds and his family had been such fans of sledding, called coasting in the late 1800s, that before inventing this sled, he even had a sled course at his house to test out the early versions.
Why is the location of the Briggs Building on Fayetteville Street so important?
Fayetteville Street is called North Carolina's Main Street since it runs through the center of downtown Raleigh, the capital of North Carolina. It was planned back in 1792 with the rest of the new capital, City of Raleigh, which was much smaller at the time. If you had a store back in the 1870s, do you think the middle of the busiest street in the city would be a good choice for business? That would definitely help. Like we mentioned before, the building was right across the street from the Old City Market located in the Metropolitan Hall. This building also had the original City Hall and a theater as well. Stores, restaurants, and hotels were packed on either side of the street, so much so that parking became an issue later when cars were invented from all the people visiting. For almost 100 years, the governor's house was also located on Fayetteville Street. and with the Capitol Building and Wake County Courthouse here as well. It was a very important street for state and local government. The Briggs Building saw a lot of history and changes happen throughout the years, but Fayetteville Street has remained as busy as ever. Places like the Briggs Building can help local historians with their research in a lot of ways. For example, its height and design are very recognizable and stand out in photographs of Fayetteville Street taken since 1874. When looking at these old photos, if historians can see where the Briggs Building is, they can tell where the photo was taken on Fayetteville Street and even look for clues to see what time period it was taken in. With these photos, along with artifacts, records, and other resources, it helps us understand the long past of the Briggs Building and gives us a great look into the history here throughout the years.
Today we learned how old the Briggs Building is, what's special about the building and what you can find inside, and why it's located on Fayetteville Street. Want more information about this subject or site? Click the link below. Explore some history at home with the activity in the description below. Thank you for exploring Raleigh's history with us. See you next time.